Hello.
Why hello there, Limit here, and what am I rambling about today? As you may have guessed from the video title, it is counter states, the luring, and offhand thrusting. Basically, let me tell you a story, all about how my life got flipped upside down. Basically, I was trying to improve the greatbow build, but learned a lot of useless things along the way. So my original idea is, does the luring improve greatbow damage? It did in previous games, and more so, if I use my shield to push the opponent, can I stab them with an offhand thrust weapon and get the damage bonus from the luring? Now that sounds pretty damn simple, right? Well, prepare to hear me say counterattack at least 50,000 times in this video. Anywho, let's get started. So, to answer both these questions, we first have to define what is a counterattack. I know what you're thinking, it's really goddamn obvious what a counterattack is. So, let's take the wiki.wiki's definition, and they define a counterattack as counterattacks occur when you attack an enemy mid-attack animation. William Shakespeare. You know what? I agree with that. That's a fair description. And even better, Dark Souls 3 also agrees with that. If you do any attack and open up the menu, you can see your thrust defense plummet. This is the counter state. So if you're ever in doubt what a counterattack is, simply do any action or attack, open the menu, and you can personally see yourself. Now let's get into the weird stuff to do with counterattacks. Now from what I've tested, it only works on thrust weapons. Odd I know, but this is how it worked in Dark Souls 1. The counterattack bonus only applied to thrusting weapons. And I know what you're thinking. Well, I've done attacks and I've gotten the bonus damage. Well, that's from a little something else called instability frames, but we'll get onto that in a minute. But first, let's cover some weird bits to do with counter frames, which I haven't not seen mentioned anywhere. So, when I say an offensive action or attack, I really do mean any offensive action or attack. For example, kicking and shield pushing puts you in a counter state. However, oddly enough, parrying does not put you into a counter state. So it is surprisingly safe to do. Even more weird is the greatbow during its entire attack animation has no counter state at all. So that means when you use a greatbow build, you're almost guaranteed to get a more favourable trade on the opening arrow. Especially if the luring works. But we'll get onto that in a minute. But first, what is the counter damage we see from non-thrusting weapons? And what is that weird huge honking noise we hear sometimes when we counter? Well, those are both the very same thing. Those are instability frames. You're considered to be in an instability state if you are guard broken, which is pretty easy to do, parried, but you have a very short window to hit them afterwards, doing a jump attack. This is probably the easiest and most common form of instability frames, and generally it also applies to anything else kinda staggery. This is what makes the huge THUNK sound effect and gives you the massive counter damage. The wiki.wiki calls these supercounters. It's an okay name, but I'm not very keen on it. Remember this, these supercounters are very different from the counterattacks we covered earlier. Most of these are not attacking states, therefore there is no thrust defense penalty. So be warned. But now I've finally covered what is a counterattack, what is a super counter and instability frames and all that junk, we can finally answer the question. Does pushing someone with your shield or a kick put them into a counter state? And the answer is no, it does not. It puts them into an instability state. So that means if you equip the luring, you are not going to get any bonus damage or thrusting weapons. The advantage here is that you can use any damage type to get some juicy bonus damage. However, the drawback in this game, to perform a super counter, you need to hit them inside an instability frame, and these instability frames are so goddamn short. As you can see here, only very few weapons can actually use this to their advantage. Unlike in Dark Souls 1, it was incredibly easy to do. So that's mystery 1 solved. Let's move on to question 2. Does the luring work with greatbows? Here is a standard greatbow attack, and here is a counter attack, And finally, here is a Leo ring counter attack. So yeah, as you may have expected, the Greatbows are, it's pretty great. It's not too bad with the Leo ring. We can deal bonus damage, and we are not inside a counter state either. Now, after all this testing, a big question came to my mind. If you jump attack, we can see we are inside a counter state, since it is an attack after all. But we can also clearly hear the super counter sound effect, since jump attacks have instability frames. So, in that case, is it possible to deal both instability damage and counter damage at once? Can we do a super counter and a Leo ring counter on top of that? Let's find out. Well, after some testing, I have this. A normal hit does 23 damage. A counter hit will do 30 damage. A counter hit with the Leo ring does 35 damage. The damage for instability is 33. And the damage for instability with the Leo ring is also 33. So that's pretty weird when you think about it. I did this about 50 times, but there's 2 attempts where something quite interesting happened. On 2 of the attacks, we did 49 damage. That is over double of our normal hit of 23 damage. But there was also no super counter sound effect. So, to answer the question, can you do a super counter Leo counter? No, I'm not sure. This isn't nearly enough data to confirm it here and now. And basically I'm pretty eager to start the bow build, but I thought it'd be worth sharing, and I'll leave it into your capable hands. To recap, what did we learn? The Leo ring is great for greatbows. Greatbows are great at trading blows since they have no counter states. Making a shield pushing Leo ring build is pretty much useless, since once you're pushed it is not a counter state but an instability state. So damage type doesn't matter. All that matters is that you're actually quick enough to hit them inside the instability state, since the window is actually really goddamn short. Hence you can see I can only pretty much pull it off with daggers in this little clip. And finally, all weapons can super counter, but only frost weapons can counter. It still doesn't make sense to me. It still doesn't... I feel like I'm missing something here, but it still feels a bit weird to me. In any case, thanks for listening to this useless data ramble. Hopefully some of it was pretty educational and or interesting. I'll see you next time. This has been Limit. Until then, good luck and good game. Stay away from Dex builds.